What Disney did to Halle Bailey's Ariel genuinely needs to be studied. And you know I've talked about the many ways they sabotaged her, from the costumes to the film's general lack of fantasy and extravagance. But today we're gonna discuss the iconic red hair, because they somehow managed to cast a young woman who perfectly embodies the spirit of Ariel, and they pretty much stripped away the single most iconic feature associated with the character, which was insane considering the fact that Halle already was met with so much backlash the moment she was announced in the role, because as a black woman, people were immediately pointing to her and saying, that doesn't look like Ariel, and instead of showing them that they're not losing any of the character's attributes by having a black woman in that role, Disney just fueled the fire. Ariel's vibrant red hair is not some tiny cosmetic detail people are randomly obsessing over. It's the visual anchor of the character. It's what immediately separates Ariel from every other Disney princess. It's what makes her instantly recognizable. And when you cast an actress in that role who was already going to face scrutiny and controversy no matter what, muting the character's most iconic visual trait is an absolutely baffling decision, especially when Halle Bailey had everything else. She had the princess vibes, she had the charm, she had the curious spirited energy. She's a real-life otherworldly siren mermaid princess. She had the potential to be the most visually iconic live-action Disney princess ever. And that's why this is so frustrating, because instead of amplifying Halle's features and leaning fully into the fantasy of Ariel, Disney stupidly pulled back. Ariel's hair in the animated movie isn't just memorable because it's pretty, it tells you who she is. It's fiery, curious, impulsive, rebellious. It gives her this constant sense of energy and emotional intensity. It practically bursts through the frame. Against the cool blues and greens of the ocean, Ariel immediately commands your attention because her hair creates this striking visual contrast that mirrors her personality. She is someone who refuses to blend into her environment. That's the whole point. And that's one of the reasons why the decision to give Halle Bailey this muted, brownish, ginger shade instead of a deeper, richer, more vibrant red is just so wrong. Because the final color in the movie often blends into Halle's skin tone and the darker blue-gray cinematography around her, and it doesn't even register as red most of the time. Instead of making her pop on screen, it frequently washes her out, especially with the overly vibrant tail and top pulling all the attention away from her. There's no visual harmony to the look. And it's especially frustrating because Halle Bailey herself is so visually striking. She already naturally has this luminous, mythical quality to her. She genuinely feels like a being from the sea in the most magical way possible, in a way that actually expands on the fantasy of Ariel. Like, she doesn't feel like human girl with a tail, she feels enchanting, which is exactly why the styling should have supported and amplified that. They didn't trust the fantasy enough, and I think that's a core problem. Disney keeps approaching these live-action remakes like they're embarrassed by heightened fantasy aesthetics. Everything has to accommodate to their idea of realism. Instead of going for a grounded, heightened fantasy, they just like to make things dull, muted, desaturated. But Ariel is a mermaid who has talking fish for friends. If they wanted to make Ariel's hair more grounded when she's a human, okay, that makes sense and actually would have been very interesting to see a more natural red when she's on land and a more vibrant, vivid, deep, ethereal red when she's a mermaid. That could have visually reinforced the idea that Ariel exists between two worlds. But to say a mermaid's hair needs to be realistic is crazy. I mean, her sister's hair is frickin' pink, so I'm confused. And nobody wants Ariel to have cartoony looking hair that looks ridiculous, just more vibrant and striking, which red hair can naturally be. So even if they didn't want to push it into looking a tad more otherworldly, they could still just make it a natural red in a more eye-popping shade. They just did not understand the assignment. Hallie actually looked more like Ariel off screen, and this is what makes the whole thing even crazier to me. Because at the red carpet premieres and promotional events for the movie, Hallie often had a richer, deeper, more vibrant red hair that looked stunning on her. Like, instantly stunning. Her features popped, her eyes stood out more, her skin glowed. Everything felt harmonious. You could immediately see the vision of Halle Bailey as Ariel, which makes the actual movie even more confusing because Camille Friend, the hairstylist for the film, literally said they tested many shades of red to figure out what looked best on Hallie.
I look at what is your skin tone, what's your undertones in your skin, what's your eye color, what your hairline looks like. There's all these little things that I start looking at. So in designing that, I started looking at Hallie and like really studying like different colors of reds. We tried probably 15 different colors, like different shades, what looked good against her skin tone. And that's how we came into that really beautiful golden orange red.
And this is what they settled on? She still looks nice in it, but this is not the shade that complements her best. Not even close. The brownness of the color blends into her complexion instead of contrasting with it, so instead of creating that striking, fiery mermaid energy Ariel is supposed to have, the movie softens Hallie visually in a way that diminishes her presence on screen. And that's such a shame because Halle Bailey is not someone who needs to be visually toned down. She's someone you build the fantasy around, especially because when you see edits or photoshops of Halle with darker, deeper, more vibrant Ariel red hair, everything suddenly clicks into place. She instantly looks more mythical, more ethereal, more iconic, more like the definitive live-action Ariel Disney should have been aiming for from the beginning. And getting the hair right was always important, but it was even more important because of the backlash. Like I said, from the second Halle Bailey was cast, there was already going to be resistance from certain audiences. Some people were racist, some people were overly attached to the animated version, some people just hate change. That was inevitable, which means Disney should have done everything possible to immediately cement Halle visually as Ariel in people's minds. And the easiest way to do that was through the hair, because iconic visual language is important. People instantly associate Ariel with vibrant red hair in the same way they associate Rapunzel with impossibly long golden hair. These visual traits become inseparable from the character. And I genuinely think if Halle Bailey had been given the deep, fiery, fantasy-level Ariel red hair she deserved, far more people would have immediately accepted her visually as Ariel. I'm not saying everybody, obviously, because some people are just bigots, but others are just unimaginative and cannot see the vision unless you show it to them. Because the actress was never the issue. Halle Bailey already embodied the spirit of the character perfectly. One of the most challenging aspects of making a live-action adaptation of the iconic Little Mermaid is finding the right Ariel, and they did. They did it. She brought this ethereal, hypnotic, almost otherworldly energy to the character that made her feel less like a real-life cartoon character and more like an actual mythological sea princess. That's exciting. That's what live-action adaptations should do. But instead of elevating Halle visually and giving her the striking fantasy iconography the character demanded, Disney held back. And Ariel is not a character that benefits from restraint. She should feel vibrant, magical, fiery, impossible to ignore. A deeper, richer, more vivid red hair color is such an obvious choice. Like, you already found Ariel, now you have one job: deliver on the character visually. And they fumbled. They had the ingredients for greatness, and they did not know what to do with them. And it seems like such a minor issue, but it's not. It definitely had an impact on this film and the general public's perception of it, in addition to many of the other creative choices that I've discussed ad nauseum on this channel. So go check out those other videos and tell me what you think about this one, please, and give me more video ideas, things you want to hear me yap about. So I hope you have a lovely day if you deserve one. Bye.